Welcome to the final programme of this series, and we complete the British season here at Newnham Park near Plymouth, which hosts the UK leg of the Grundig World Cup. This venue is now the premier course in Britain, with the first national race being held here in '91, when Tim Gould had an emphatic victory. '92 saw his former teammate David Baker take first, and he repeated the win in the mud of May the next year. While in the women's, the course has been a favourite of Deb Morell's, with wins in '92 and '93. The first World Cup race was also in '93, when Caroline Alexander took fifth behind Susan de Mattei and the eventual winner Ruthie Mathis. Baker made it his third win here on the trot after he escaped from Ned Overend on the final lap, which also saw Gary Ford snap his chain while catching Overend. Last year, Alexander led for the first lap, but eventually finished third behind the all-conquering Furtado, while it was Barry Clark's turn to be unlucky. He was twice up with the leaders, but twice punctured. That left the world champion Henrik Jernies to take a closely fought victory, with Baker finishing fourth. The 10.3-kilometre course is ridden anti-clockwise. From the start there is a tough open climb before the technical sections of the pipeline, bomb holes and off-camber descent to the river. The riders then climb to the top of the course at Dartmoor, and after heading back into the woods there's a long fast descent to complete the lap. First off are the women, and as they prepare for the start, let's have a look at the present World Cup standings. Julie Furtado is now well clear in the series and has unfortunately decided to miss this round, so the race today is for second. Seidor is the reigning world champion and presently lying third in the series. She took up mountain biking in '92 from a road background and was immediately successful with a silver at the Worlds. Lying second in the series is the '93 world champion Petso, who has already had 2 World Cup wins this year. She was also last year's European champion and is an international cross-country skier. Struggling for form this season, Dacour was the European champion in '93, when she also missed out on a World's medal after being disqualified for missing a pre-race bike check. Race commentaries by Hugh Porter.
The largest women's field in Britain this year sets off for their 3.5-lap race, and they'll be cheered all the way round by an estimated crowd of 15,000 spectators. First through the river is the world champion Alison Seidor, followed closely by Paola Petso, and she'll be hoping to close the gap on the series leader, Furtado, who's missing this round. The first technical section is the pipeline, and over the top, Seidor is still in front, followed by the newly crowned European champion, Caroline Alexander. However, they're choosing different routes down here. Next through is Chantal Dacour and the 2 Italians, Petso and Tacuto. And Britain's next rider, Deb Morell, has had a good start and is just outside the top 10. On this lap, the riders are missing them all, so it's not long before they're heading back to the main arena. And Seidor has now made a break at the front, and she's opened a 10-second advantage on Alexander, who'd love to get her first World Cup win on home turf. Seidor's early power has stretched out the field, with Tacuto and Dacour also riding alone. On the pipeline for the second time, and the Canadian has had a completely clear run on what is the trickiest part of the course. Alexander has opted for the faster line on the right, where in the past she's always taken the left side, and I think that's a sign of a newfound confidence in her bike handling, but she's now got company in the shape of Tacuto. The densest crowd on the course is here at the pipeline, and they're giving Dacour and all the rest of the field tremendous encouragement. Lying fifth is Shari Kane from the States in her first season of competition in the World Cup. Oh, and there's another newcomer to the international scene, Gunrita Dahl, sliding out, and that lets Tammy Jacks through. Eva Ovasova, the 1991 world silver medalist, has been having a poor season so far, but she's ahead of Petso, who's second in the series. Morell, of course, is loving this course and has now moved up to 11th. Through the bomb holes, Seidor looks very smooth, and I think it's on these technical sections where she's gaining time on Alexander and Tacuto. The riders now drop out of the trees and cross the river before the moors, so if Alexander is going to catch the Canadian, she'll have to raise her game on the climb up to Dartmoor. But in fact, she slipped further back as Tacuto is now alone in second, and once again the BMW Klein riders' hopes of a home victory seem to be sliding away despite the best endeavours of the crowd. The former European champion Dacour seems comfortable in fourth spot. Last year the Swiss rider was lying second when she was forced to retire with a broken chain. Up on the moors, the course is much more open, so Sidor will be out to increase her lead to ensure that she's out of sight of the chasers. While back at the river, Morel, who's enjoying her best ever season, has now moved up to 10th. Takuto is also having an excellent year. She recently won the Italian title and at present she's matching her best World Cup performance. Alexander, though, who was second overall in the series last year, has had dreadful form in the World Cup this year. And here she's dropped further back with Dacour moving through to third, while Dahl is having a tremendous ride and has moved back ahead of Jax to lie fifth. At Dragonfly Hill, the overnight rain has made the surface just too slippery, and the riders have been forced to dismount for the steepest section of the course. Their calf muscles will really be hurting here as the leaders all bunch up again on the slowest part of the loop. Alexander has regained third slot, riding further up than Dacour, but that was short-lived as she's forced to dismount, and both may have to pay attention to the Norwegian Dahl, who's now closed the gap right down. Up the second climb on lap 3, the world champion is maintaining a punishing pace, and I can't see anyone closing her down unless she tires. Takuto, resplendent in her national championship jersey, shouldn't try and match the Canadian, but just ride at her own pace, and in fact, she could have problems from behind as Dahl just moved up to third ahead of Dacour. The Swiss rider had a good start to the season, but has recently slipped out of the top 10 in the series. And our national champion Alexander now seems to be struggling. She even looks laboured on this climb, her favourite discipline. Picking the riders up again on the fast descent towards the arena, and Sidor needn't take any chances, and she's got a good margin over Takuto, which is only likely to be closed if the Canadian has a problem. But Dahl is flying over these jumps, and her good bike handling is helping her gradually close the gap on the Italian. Dacour couldn't stay with the Norwegian, who only took up mountain biking in April, which means the old firm could be under threat, as Kane also moves up. She's now fifth ahead of Alexander, heading down to the third river crossing for the final time, and Sidor now seems assured of her first World Cup win this season. At present, she's lying third overall, but Takuto's compatriot Pezzo has apparently pulled out, which means Sidor will close the gap down on her and Furtado considerably. She also appears to be coming to form at the right time to defend her World Championship title in Germany later this month. Here again are the present positions as Dacour comes through, but her advantage over the next two has closed right down, and it's Alexander who seems to have found her second win who's doing the damage. Off Dartmoor, the riders drop back into the trees before the final climb, and Sidor, who's also a World and Commonwealth bronze medalist on the road, should now be able to enjoy herself. She'll also know Takuto from the road scene, as she was on the Italian squad for the last Olympics. Back on the moor, and Dacour is now being reeled in by Alexander, who looks the stronger of the two. But I think it's now too late to do anything about Dahl, who was 12th in her first international race, the European Championships, a fortnight ago. But the European champion has really shown her pedigree on the final lap, as she's now moved clear of Dacour. But it's the world champion Alison Sidor who collects the victory today with an emphatic display of front riding, a position she never surrendered from the start. Next into the arena is Takuto, who claims her second runner-up spot of the season, and she resisted a last-lap challenge by Dahl, who was undoubtedly the surprise of the day.
Bravo!
For the record, the fastest rider on the final lap was Alexander, who's also matched her best World Cup result this year. But what could she have done if she hadn't faded in the middle of the race?
So Sidor has comfortably taken her first World Cup win of the season, while Alexandra again secured a top 5 result here.
I tried to ride a fairly conservative race. I knew when we just started the first half lap that I watched the others to see how strong they were, and knew that I was probably going to be the strongest today, and I just rode a very careful race, conservative, gaining time as much as I could in the technical sections, and just saving it until the last couple laps to really start making some gap.
I've been a runner before this, but not a high level, long distance.
Long distance running?
Yeah, so I had this strong before I started cycling, but I did my first cycling in April, so that's my carry.
I felt good at the start, and the pace that Alison set didn't appear too tough, but she just got a little gap on a flat section and I couldn't close it. Maybe mentally as well as physically, I was losing my focus a bit. And then I got going and I felt strong at the end, which is encouraging.